All right, folks, welcome to the Monsters, Madness, and Magic podcast. I'm your host, Justin, here with a quick word before we dive in. Now, in this episode, I chat with actor and comedian Maggie Roswell about voicing Teegra in Fire and Ice, Frank Frazetta, becoming Maude Flanders in The Simpsons, supernatural experiences, and more. As always, thank you all for listening out there, and without further ado, here you go. So when you think back to formative films and TV shows that you grew up on, what comes to mind?
Well, every cartoon ever that, every Saturday morning, which is, I learned all my dialects from Yosemite Sam, and I'd watch him. And Pepe Le Pew was the one who taught me my French accent. And any British one, was any of the Brits, it was all and so I kind of got, that's where I kind of got into it. And then like Carol Burnett and people like that I was lucky enough when I did the Tim Conway show to meet her. But all those shows and Ed Sullivan and all these things, because for us it was a whole different generation of television. It wasn't watch it anytime you feel like it when you're in the mood,
Right.
so, and definitely not streaming. But yeah, so it's really, really great, really fun.
Were you a big moviegoer?
Oh, absolutely. I would do double features. And I still can't believe that I do double features because now when a movie's long, I'm going, long.
So, what records were spinning around the house when you were growing up? You're a big music fan?
Well, my dad was kind of a Manavani kind of a guy. And my mom, she would play, musicals. So she would play South Pacific and things like that. And this is my dog, Frodo.
Hello, Frodo.
I'm Bilbo Baggins, not Frodo. You're Bilbo, aren't you? Hello. You might want to go, baby. Get out of here, you knucklehead. Okay, so anyways, but she would play like South Pacific and things like that. So we'd be singing around the house. And we always thought when we went on a trip, there were five of us in the car, five kids. So to keep us quiet should have us singing things. And then we always took 5-part harmony because there were five of us. And we always just thought everybody could sing. And then we went out to the world and went, everybody can't sing. How bizarre, so, but it was really kind of where we were, we were into that, but it wasn't like we saw a lot of theater and all of that stuff because that was not their thing. But, I saw a lot of television. I love the television. Although they would turn the television off and go out and play and come back when the street lights are on,
Right. So, did you ever play an instrument or anything like that, or were you just singing?
No, just singing. So I just went into musicals. And I think the first thing I did, the first play I ever did was when I was like 5 years old. And I was one of the seven dwarfs. And so it was, and that's I was dopey. And it was beautiful. And once I heard people applauding, I went, I should so be doing this. This is so what I should be doing. And my dad kept going, well, what are you going to fall back on, dear? And I went, this is it. This is pretty much my deal. Hopefully it works out because this is all I got. But it really was, amazing. And it was amazing at the time to grow up in LA. We grew up in Hancock Park in this area in LA and, really beautiful area that had all these big houses. And we always thought when we were kids that, when you got big enough, they just handed you a key to this big old house and that was yours. We didn't realize you actually had to work for it. We just thought, well, but this is it. This is what you do. You go to the club and you do this here. And isn't this how everybody lives? No, not so much. So through those struggling years and you kind of go, oh, I get it now. Oh, you can't. Is that how it goes?
So, a question I like to ask everyone, Maggie, is what scared you as a kid?
Oh, The Beast with Five Fingers. It
Ooh,
was with Peter Lorre, and there was just the Beast with Five Fingers, and then my brothers used to hide in our closet. My sister and I shared a room. God forbid anybody could share a room anymore, but we shared a room, and they would hide in the closet, and then you just see this hand coming out, and we'd be screaming. So The Beast with Five Fingers, definitely. Any of those kind of horror movies. Before they came slasher movies, I kind of liked the psychological thriller movies. I thought those were more fun.
so do you have a light bulb or a eureka moment you can point to where You saw maybe a player performance or something like that, and you thought, I'd like to give that a try. Maybe acting's for me.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think when I was first hearing applause, but then I did see a high school production of Pygmalion, and and we knew the girl that played the lead. And I went backstage and I went, oh, this is it. This is the deal. And I always wanted to know, I wanted to do theater, but I also thought that theater didn't make as much money as everything. And so I did a lot of commercials. I was like the commercial queen back in the day when they actually had commercials that you didn't just blow through. But I did a lot of commercials, and then people would say there were all these actors that were waiter and waitresses, and they would say, or wait staff now. That's the PC one. But and they would say, well, I'd never do commercials. I said, really? Okay, well, could I have some more ketchup? Because I do commercials and it's good. Yeah, as it turns out.
Do more commercials.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. The money thing is very good. It'll be very big for you.
So was stage fright ever an issue at all for you?
Yes, actually, more recently than anything else. I'm trying to remember, what was that line? What did I do? I did a performance. I used to do a club act with my partner, Michael Hawkins. And when we did this club act, we redid a song that we had done for this huge event. So, one of the things in LA that kind of lauded all the people that were stage actors. And I just blanked for like a second. And it scared me so much. I went, okay, I can't do this anymore. Because I've been doing, Simpsons for so long and just reading, and any of the animation that I do, or voiceover, you just read it. So
Hmm.
then reading things the way to go, rather than trying to go, what was I thinking? I do not remember. I cannot recall. What was it you wanted to tell me that I was supposed to say?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you've done your a fair share of voice acting coaching too, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I do and I have, and I help people now. Mostly the kind of one-on-ones that I like to do now are people interviewing for jobs and things, or kids trying to get into college, because a lot of them don't know just how to present themselves. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to wear on camera. They don't know. I mean, it's also like they can hardly talk on the phone because everybody's like this. And then you go, no, you use your voice. You need to talk to humans. Humans are out there. We used to say to our daughter who did all this gaming, we would laugh and just say, there's no cheat code for the world. Just go out there. Anything can happen. It can all happen out there. But it really was. It's been amazing. It really has been amazing.
What would you say is the most common pitfall you see young voice actors fall into that you come across?
I think probably now is articulation. Some of them, there's something that you'll start listening to now, which is an ism, and newscasters of a certain age are doing this. And we said to our daughter when she says, well, I mean, I've got a kitten. We go, no, it's kitten. It's, oh, and today in the mountains, what, really? And they drop the end of the ends, and the kitten, mountain, belly button. And when you hear it, at first I thought it was kind of an ism from maybe Colorado, but I went out to LA and in New York, and it's just, I think it is more of a certain age, like in 20s and 30-year-olds, you hear that a lot. So that I think is one of those, the articulation piece of it that is just gone sometimes, that they, even if they're trying to act like a real person, still a real person can talk like a real person without dropping their eh. They
Right.
used to have this guy in LA, Tom Brokaw, and then he ended up being on the nightly news, and he couldn't say his L's, so it's always say Ravi Los Angeles. And so because he could have, and so when he was on the national news, they had him cut out the L's, anything that L in it, he wouldn't, don't put that in my copy.
If you take all the external factors like pay and stuff like that out of it, do you have more fun as an actor whether you're on stage, on the screen, or in the booth?
Oh, I think on stage is amazing,
Mm.
amazing, because it's an instant feel and it changes every night. And the concept of having everybody in a room all kind of sharing this space is incredible. And I do like the film and television are great because then you can say take two. And you can do that in the booth as well. Although with some things like with Simpsons, we barely pick anything up because everybody's just kind of going all together, and you'll do like a couple of times. Now we do it very separately because we are in different places. We're all over the country. So, I'm here, and Julie Kavner's in the Midwest, and Hank Azaria is in New York, and everybody's, everybody's just kind of gone their own way, but it's our 37th year. So,
Yeah.
And the 37th year of the show, or 37th season. So it's just like,
Wow.
One that you go, really? Wow. And especially that's so great because, and I tell young actors to get into voiceover because it just extends what you do, as opposed to just having, because when I started, I had film, television, stage, I could do industrials, voiceover, all of this stuff that even the Renaissance Pleasure Fair, there were so many things that we could do that you could do as an actor to make money. Now the difference is, it's still much better in that you could put yourself on YouTube or on TikTok and get a following, and then possibly because of that get a TV series or something. But a lot of it has to do with like who you've trained with and everything. I got a lot of training in film and television and theater, but mostly we were all supposed to just go off to regional theater, in our theater department. And a lot of the people just went into film and television because they went, I can make a lot of money. What are you, nuts? But we still all did stage. I loved working in New York. I did an improv show called Sills and Company with Paul Sills, and it was amazing to do improv in front of a New York audience and have their brains kind of throwing stuff at you every 5 seconds, and you're kind of going, you can go into brain freeze, but you kind of have to loosen your brain up and then let yourself go,
So I know you said earlier that you started in commercials. What was the first television role that you consider your break?
Oh, my break for television commercials. Well, I think it was a McDonald's, like a counter girl. I was the counter girl for forever. So then you were doing McDonald's, and then I was like the young girl, on a date, all of this stuff. And then you start growing, and then you're the wife. I didn't quite go into the grandmother depends part, but people are doing it. But and now, ironically, the whole commercial scene is so different because they would have, they have algorithms now for people. If you're a certain age, you have to only do this kind of commercial. And now they were saying that a lot of the girls that are in their 30s and 40s gray their hair so that they can do the commercials where they're sitting on the beach and stuff, but they look really beautiful as an older woman. And then you go, yeah, but you're like 45 and you're not 65, are you? But that's kind of a whole new trend that has happened in commercials. But again, it's just everything has shifted so much. But it's still a great business. It was still and still is the most fun that you can have. You definitely say to people, if they say, well, I really want to do it. You say, well, what else can you do? I really can't do anything else. I really have to do this. You go, then you have to do it. If I say, if you can do anything else at all, you should go and do it.
Mm-hmm.
But we branched out a lot because my husband and I have a recording studio, so we would write and produce radio and television spots. So you're doing everything yourself. So that's really great. And it was, that shifted everything. It was big, really big shift for us to start writing and producing. And that was so much fun, but that also kind of extends your your backpack of things to do in your life.
So I wanted to ask if you have a Robin Williams story about working on Mork and Mindy.
About a million stories of Robin Williams, because Robin and I we used to do improv together with Harvey Lembeck, who was Eric Von Zipper in the Beach movies back in the day. And he was on Bilko and a bunch of things. So he had a lot of people in his class that were improv people that went on to do a billion things. And so Robin and I were in class together, and I was one of the only girls, and my other girlfriend, Kathy, that he would work with, and our girlfriend Joyce. And other than that, it was just too hard for people to work with him. My dog's here, you just come over here and just lay down like a dog. But anyways, he would just do so many crazy things. And when you were working with him, and your Rolodex in your brain was going so fast, as fast as you could go. And and if you stopped for just a second, he would go, meow. But I did my favorite Mork and Mindy story was because when we did the thing, when you see Mork and Mindy, like you can put Maggie Roswell on YouTube and put Mork and Mindy. And that's a scene that never played because they had wanted to do a thing of Donnie and Marie Osmond. And so the casting director said, somebody like Maggie Roswell could do, Marie Osmond. And somebody like Maggie Roswell said, why don't we get Maggie Roswell? Okay, good. So then they got me, and then Robin comes in as Mork and asks me to have his egg or to have his baby. And she's like, I can't possibly have a baby now. I'm going to Japan. So, but the thing is that they didn't want to offend Donnie and Marie, so they ended up pulling that. But I had some friends at Paramount that were able to get me the clip of it. And during the shooting, then we went to lunch. So we're going to lunch with everybody. So Robin, and also now my brain, he just went out of my brain. See, this is what happens. Jonathan Winters. So Jonathan Winters and Robin and all the people at the table. But for some reason, everybody went back to the set early. So it was just myself and Robin and Jonathan Winters. And it was like the most insane conversation. I was just sitting there going, I'm not even a fly on the wall. I'm actually here. And these guys are talking. And Jonathan was going, oh, well, when I was in the loony bin, blah, 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 blah. And he used to talk about this all the time. And then Robin was going back and forth. And I was going, all right, this is a freeze frame moment. Just freeze everything because people will not believe that this is actually happening in my very presence. But he was so fantastic. It broke me when he died. It really did, because we knew each other for probably 10 years.
Yeah.
From the second marriage and everything. So yeah, it was rough. But he was amazing, just still so amazing. And there was one night in Harvey Lembeck's that I did an improv, and I realized I run the gamut of comedy because Joey Bishop, nobody knows what, from the Rat Pack, was there for that night. And then he goes on stage and he says, Maggie, get on stage with Joey. Okay. Here I am working with Joey Bishop. And then the next person I worked with was Phil Foster, who used to be on Laverne and Shirley, and he also was in the Borscht Belt. And then the next one was with Robin, and the last one was with John Ritter. And I went, I've now been through the gamut of comedy. I have worked with everyone. I can die.
So I have to ask you about Teegra and Fire and Ice. Was that a typical audition? How did that come about?
Well, that was really crazy because I had, I can't remember if I did Mighty Mouse first with Ralph Bakshi or if I did Teegra. I think I did Teegra first. And the problem is that they had this girl with that body that did the rotoscoping for Princess Teegra. So she looks like, it's Frank Frazetta. So she looks like one of those little goddess girls with a little bathing suit like this on the major tatas. And, it was quite a body, but they had rotoscoped her, but she had a Southern accent. And then she was just like, oh, okay, no, I think that's great. And then he went, and Bakshi was very funny. I don't like it. Do something else. Okay. So then I had to do when I was doing the dialogue recording, I had to do it after the ADR. This girl was, so I had to do it to picture, but then have this girl in my headphones of what she sounded like. But I laughed because I was doing this and I was like mostly running and then there's one point where they throw me off of a cliff, and I have probably the worst scream in show business. So I just said to Ralph, I said, you know what, this is terrible. And there was another girl that was the day after something else I said that, could really scream. I said, why don't you have her scream for Teegra? He goes, no, you do it. You'll be fine. So I do it. And it sounds like, I don't know, some sad thing dying very slowly. It's not like someone being thrown off a cliff. So I remember watching it. We were at the Cinerama Dome, and I was watching. I was like thinking, "Oh man, this is really bad." But I was laughing because these kids behind me, this guy was going, "Wow, she's really great." And I want to go, "If you only knew, Big, that the woman sitting by you." I'm just saying. And then I did Mighty Mouse with Ralph Bakshi, and he was just the reason that they took it off of CBS is because he Mighty Mouse goes like this and then goes back, and he's snorting poppies underneath his cape. So CBS went, no, I don't think so. So, but for me, watching it as a kid and then being able to do it like that, I mean, to be able to actually play the part, a Pearl Pureheart, it was such a rush, so much fun, and it's such a great thing to do, so, and there, just so many of the amazing stories that I've had that I think, wow, okay, that was wild. That was crazy. And sometimes being in Denver, like especially when we first moved here, and then people said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I'm in the business." And they go, "Well, what business?" I went, "Oh, that's right. It's not a one-horse town." Well, show business, the business of show.
So during Fire and Ice, did you have a chance to meet Frank Frazetta?
No, I didn't get to meet Frank Frazetta. I just work with Ralph. But the Frazetta girls, I've met both of them, and they do stuff online a lot. And I was able to see Ralph again, not most recently, but probably 5 or 6 years ago, where we did a Comic-Con, and they had him, just on Zoom. And then I met not only a lot of the people that were a lot of the animators that also had worked with Frazetta. And so that was really a blast. And I have this picture of Princess Teegra up in my office, and my daughter went, "What was this, like porn?" I said, "No." But there's like a feeling of it in a way, because it was Frazetta. And it's kind of the look. The girl's draping off a guy that has, the big muscles.
Right. I don't know if you know this, but I think there's a Teegra action figure or model coming out here soon. I think it's the first one.
Really? Oh,
I think it's
I
by the
want
Frazetta girls.
to. I've got to get it. I'll get a hold of the Frazetta girls and go, "Hey, when's Princess Teegra coming out? I want to
Yeah.
see her."
Yeah. You need to they should send you one for free, hopefully.
Oh, yeah. That would be fantastic.
So, how did the Simpsons situation come about? Was that a typical audition you got called in for, right place, right time thing?
I did the Tracy Ullman show, and they were doing a song. She wanted to sing "Leader of the Pack," and so and Fran Drescher, who's people know now from SAG and everything that happened in the last strike, but Fran Drescher was guesting on the show, and she didn't want to be in this sketch. So they called me and they said, "Well, Fran doesn't want to be in the sketch." And I was like, "Well, why would I want to be in the sketch?" And then they said, "Well, you'd be singing with Carole King, and Clarence Clemens of the E Street Band would be playing." And I went, "I could do that. I think that'd be good." So I did that song, and we did Leader of the Pack, and it was really fun. And then afterwards, the casting director, Bonnie Pietro, came up to me and said, "Would you like to audition for, this cartoon that we're doing?" And I'm thinking, I do film and television, a cartoon? No. And I had seen The Simpsons. So it's like I went in and I auditioned on like a cassette, not like in a studio, on a cassette, player. Here's a character. What would you do with this character? And then all of that was born. And then they said, "You got hired," but still thinking I'm still doing film and television. And this is a nice little thing to do. And 37 years later, it's really nice. It's lovely. Brilliant.
So, I think you mentioned this earlier. Were you in the earlier years, you guys were recording more together,
Oh,
communally?
we were in a room, usually in like a huge soundstage at 20th Century Fox, which was really fun. And they had a ping pong table there. And it was different than any animated shows that I had ever done. Like I did Hanna-Barbera and a bunch of cartoon shows. But with Hanna-Barbera, like they would come in and they would hand you your script, you'd look at all your things, and then you just do it. It's like almost cold reading on most of those. But with The Simpsons, like on a Thursday, you would have a table read. And then on Monday, you would end up doing the show. But on Thursday, a table read, and then they rewrite all through the weekend. And then on Monday, you'd get a different script. And then you'd go through that. And then they would have people coming in while they were recording, and then they'd bring in more things. So it wasn't like, you're working for an hour. It was like 8 hours, the same way as you would do for a regular TV show. So we would sit, wait while their people were doing their scenes and stuff. And then the fun thing was all the different movie stars that came in to do the show, that meeting Michelle Pfeiffer and Elizabeth Taylor and all these different people, that you go, what are the odds that I would be meeting these people on a cartoon series? And the funny thing is they would all come in like, you come in on your first day of school, because we're all together as a cast, and they're like, hi, how are you? And when Elizabeth Taylor was getting, they said, Father Elizabeth. And I was like thinking, I'm not going to talk to her at all. But then at one point she had her back to me. And then I thought, oh, I want to see if her eyes really are violet. And they really were. They were amazing.
Since there's been, more recently it's shifted to individual booth work, do you think something's been lost in that process?
No, I'm not really. I think that there's a lot of things that have shifted. The scariest thing that I think that's come for all of us is AI, so artificial intelligence. It can do so much with your voice. It is astounding. Three, like a minute of your voice. And I've seen these things that can change it in multiple languages, with us talking right now. And then I'm talking to you in French, but my lips are, moving as if I was saying this in French and Italian. And, technically a lot of the people, that's why it's very hard for a lot of people to do voiceover, because you go, I don't want to hand my voice out there for like $1 and then have it used everywhere, so that I think has shifted everything mostly.
Agreed. So how did you come up with the voice for Maude?
For Maude Flanders, well, Ned was already there and he had already done his Midwest voice. So I was so excited to start everything with Maude Flanders. And I remember when the fun thing was when I would like go, oh, Nettie, then I would go like, oh, Nettie. And then that's exactly what they would have the character do. They kind of, animator, oh, Nettie. Oh, Nettie, I can't open the door. So there were a lot of things that I was able to throw in, or Helen Lovejoy, because she was able to do whatever she wanted to do. To have them do a lot of that, because we record the voices first and then they animate it, and then it can come back like a year later, really. And people will say, well, what show was that? And you go, I don't know, it was a year ago. But really good. And sometimes I'll be watching the show and go, oh yeah, I'm in this one. Okay, yeah, I know this one. But and that was the Miss Hoover is the best story of all, because they had one called A Brush with Greatness was the name of the show. And Marge was painting, I think it was one of the Beatles, the Ringo. And then she was asked to paint Mr. Burns. And so she was painting him and everything. And they were trying to, everybody's looking. And there's this one woman who walks up and she goes, he's bad, but he'll die. And that was it. He's bad, but he'll die. And so then they came to me and they said, could you do that for this teacher, Miss Hoover, and make her a character? So I had to create, he's bad, but he'll die, from there. And then all of a sudden she was just a woman who had been working way too long, who got drunk on Drambuie, and that was her life.
Pretty common knowledge you had that long break from The Simpsons for
Oh yeah.
the pay dispute. How did
Yeah.
the other shoe eventually drop and things got settled and you come back?
Well, things got settled really because they had, lucky for me, they had these characters that they put in an environment by Playmate. And so they had one of Maude and all these different ones. And they said, well, Maggie Roswell wasn't doing the show anymore. And there was a gal who had replaced me for like a minute, but she wasn't really doing my character. So then I was seen but not heard. And then the Playmate just said, well, if Maggie's voice chip isn't in these characters, then we're not going to buy those characters. We're not going to do them. So then they called, hello, would you like to do this at your house? Why, yes, I would. Thank you very much. So, and that, it turned out to be so great, but it was really only, I think it was really a 3-year separation, because I was at the 10th year and then I came back on the 13th. So, and then we've all been together ever since. But it's, ever since, I guess, the pandemic, they really haven't had, like back in the day, at least we used to be in the studio, and then it just got to people were different places, and then some people would come to the studio. And now I think with a lot of it be ever since pandemic, they don't even go into the studio. All the producers and directors and everything are at their houses, and they do a table read on Zoom or something like that. So it's much more separated than it used to be, but they still seem to pull it off amazing. Like I'll see new shows and just go, I cannot believe some of these guys, and the writers are insane. They're so good.
So was one of the major hiccups, I guess, you just wanting to record in Denver?
Well, yeah, I wanted to record in Denver, but this was long before anybody was recording there, you
Mm.
know. And so that was a huge thing. I mean, I just said, well, I'm flying myself in because I was flying myself back and forth. And in fact, when I quit the show, they said Maggie Roswell is no longer doing The Simpsons because she's too tired to fly from her home in Denver. That's what they said on Entertainment Tonight.
Wow.
It's Veritol. I mean, it was like I was like, really? That's what you're going with? But yeah, I think it was because that was before the days. Now, like I said, everybody's everywhere. So if this had been then, it would have been a whole different boogie. But I was flying in on Thursdays and then flying back Thursday evening and then coming in on Mondays and then leaving Tuesday morning. And I did that 2 weeks on and 1 week off for years. And then our daughter was growing, and it's like, she was like 3 and 4 and 5. And then when she had like a little backpack and that you could roll, and she said, I'm going to LA with mom. It was like ELLAY. And I was like, okay, maybe I've been flying back and forth too much. Maybe I just, I should stay put for a little bit. So then that's kind of where it all started. But it also was rough because everybody on the show had already, done where they were going to quit. I mean, not that they were going to quit, but they were striking, kind of a whole different thing. So I think for me, I had done a voiceover in a pilot where I was paid an inordinate amount of dough for this pilot. And then I was supposed to, that I was coming back to The Simpsons. And so it was just like, it's all this stuff, it's all that crazy Hollywood stuff. And especially when you're younger and you go, I'll show you. And then I go, all right, I'm sorry I showed you that. What was I thinking?
So, Maggie, what would you say is the best acting advice you've received and who gave it to you?
Oh, these are such good questions. I have to tell you that. Do you know I never do any of these, but for some reason I wanted to do yours.
Thank you.
I don't do podcasts. I just, usually, because I mean, there's not those kind of questions like you're asking. Let me see. Boy, that one is really hard.
Take your time.
Mostly we had this guy, Dr. Fred Martin, who was at City College at LACC, where we all went to school. And like Mark Hamill and Cindy Williams and all these people, we all went through that theater department. And he was really the business of show business piece of everything. Like he would say, in this class of all these people, a big, college class, and he'd say, look to your right, look to your left. One of you is not going to make it. In fact, many of you are not going to make it. And then you're thinking, well, of course, I'm going to make it. I will. In fact, I think it because he showed you the business of show business. And I always understood that from my dad more than I think a lot of people did, because I knew that there was a business aspect to it. And I had really a lot of fun with my agents when we would like negotiate deals and stuff for film and television and things. And that was really a blast because it was just, it's that business part. But then the biggest thing is like some people giving it away for free, and then they go, well, this is really good. And they go, no, but then the sick kind of thing is then they think that that's all you're worth. So the more expensive you are, the more people think you're worth, which doesn't make any sense at all. But and I think with the friends that I had and everybody that had gone before me in the business, just saying, really keep your head about you, and it's a young person's business, and don't go wacky with all that money that you get in the beginning, because there's got to be longevity. And luckily for me, because The Simpsons, I have this longevity to like be able to play boys like, oh man, don't be a butthead, Bart, because all of our voices don't change. If you had a 10-year-old boy, by the time he's 11, his voice is going to change.
Right.
So I think that probably the best thing and was the person that helped, first usher me into voiceover. And I thought, wow, this is great. I mean, you don't have to get dressed or anything. You can just be in front of the microphone and do your job and be done, So,
Yeah.
but I think that has been like a really great thing. And there's no, there's not that ageism, although like I was saying, there still is an algorithm for, the voice should be between 30 and 40. And then you have to be between 30 and 40 years old to do it. And it was kind of like in LA where they would say, how old are you? I had forgotten how old I was when I was in LA, because if you were 22, you couldn't possibly play 19. And you go, really? And that was always that kind of concept of the way that it should be. So the people lying in their age is not really about anything except for their agents going, don't tell people how old you are. You go, really? How old am I? And I used to say, my sister Ann, my younger sister, used to say, are we as old as each other now? I said, oh, no, you passed me up years ago. Like, no, I can't say that. I'm young. I'm very young.
Do you know who Jeanette Goldstein is off the top of your head?
No.
Oh, she's in several James Cameron movies. She's an actress, but anyway, your advice reminds me of hers. She basically said, when she first got to LA, she asked her acting teacher, for acting advice, and he said, "Well, do you consider yourself a lead woman or a character actor?" And she said, "Well, I suppose I'm a character actor." And he said, "Well, that's great. You'll have a career longer than 5 years."
Yeah. Exactly. And then I remember that, I had done pilots every year until I was 30. And I just said to a friend, wow, I can't believe I haven't gotten a pilot this year. And she goes, well, you're 30. And I was like, and? Well, you're way past pilot season. And then you have to jump to being the moms or being whatever that you're going to be. But it's the whole feel of what happened in the business now has changed so much. And then streaming has really done a lot. And that is good news and bad news is you have all these jobs in streaming. Bad news is the amount of money that used to get on network television for residuals you don't get in streaming. That has shifted so much.
Yeah.
So that changes a lot of people's lives of saying, I'd like to be an actor. You go, really? It's going to be rough.
Yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of rough, what's the most challenging project that you've worked on? Is there one you lost sleep over?
Oh, there were a lot of those. Let me say, I think some of the ones, I think it's not so much the project of doing things. I think when I was in New York doing improv, that was really, really hard because like I said, you had to have so much information. The New York artists have so much information that they would always be throwing these people out at your, situations that you'd have to kind of know what these characters were. And that was very challenging, especially being on Broadway. But I think that for most of the jobs, like the comedy jobs that I do, like the Tim Conway show and stuff like that, that was a dream job. You go in, you do a couple of things, you get a couple of laughs and you go home.
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's the business of show business that I lose sleep over, because in fact, we laugh because my husband and I both get, he did G.I. Joe and Transformers and Muppet Monsters and all these series. And so we both laugh that now that we get pensions and Social Security and stuff, yes, I'm that old, get Social Security and everything, that you finally have money going into your bank account. So, which is crazy, because it's not like, the back in the day where you go, where's your next job coming from? Will I ever work again? That's always a big thing. Will I ever work again? Oh no, if they find out about that, I may never work again. Yeah, really. You will. You'll.
So, Maggie, this is a question I like to ask everyone at the end. Have you ever had an experience you would consider supernatural or paranormal, or an event that you can't explain?
Yes, I have. When we adopted our daughter, my husband and I are standing at the airport waiting for the birth mother, and she's coming in and we're like whispering, like hardly you could hear anything. And I said, I don't know, do we hug her? And what should we do? Whatever. And this woman comes over and she puts her hand on my arm, and my whole body went, and she said, "You're waiting for a teenager, and she's in trouble or something like that." And she said, "Yes, you should definitely give her a hug." I said, "Okay." And then she gets off the plane, and I turn to say to the woman, "Hey, thank you," gone. So I always think that that's like this amazing thing that happened in my life, that you go, okay, really touched by an angel type of a thing. And I think a lot of because I feel in my life I'm pretty psychic on things, that there's just manifesting everything and doing that kind of stuff. It is, I think that it's around us and around for everybody to kind of get a kick out of. But I I just think that a lot of people don't believe in it. But this was one of those ones you go, okay, I'm a believer.
That's a good one. That's why I ask everyone that question because you just never know. Just to put a bow on this thing here, is there anything on the horizon that you can share? Anything in the pipeline you want to put out there?
Well, let's see. We're just starting the new season, and we're going to be doing a Comic-Con. And in fact, if there's anybody out there, we love doing Comic-Cons, my husband and I. So I would love to do Comic-Cons if there's any of those that they can say, what about Maggie Roswell for that Comic-Con in the South, wherever, I would love it. I think it would be fantastic. So just go through my, MaggieRoswell.com, and I'll come out and do your Comic-Con. I certainly will. I love every minute because I really love them. They're so much fun, and seeing the people. And so we're doing one in Canada. We're going to do one in Winnipeg, and he did Transformers. So I'm doing actually a Transformers one that's coming up. Where this is the second one I've done. One I did in England when he was going to England for something, and then we did, I did this one, but we did Australia and New Zealand and England, and I love especially going all over the world doing those. Those are just the best. So anybody in Europe, I'm there. Yeah, I'm good.
Between Transformers and Fire and Ice, you guys should do great.
Yeah, that we got this technology all together, because this is good. And see, and the storm didn't do anything. It
Exactly.
looks nice.
Maggie, thank you for giving me some of your time. I appreciate you.
All righty. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, I'll send you a link to this once I have it up and edited in post.
Okay. Yeah, edit it and post, baby. Get all those breaks in there.